All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, another NBA offseason video. Today, we're going to talk about Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors and the contract disagreement, I guess they're having um, over the course of this whole summer. It's going to continue on probably for another couple weeks, another month. And Jonathan Kuminga is not getting the money he wants, and the Warriors don't want to pay him, and things are just going wrong for both sides. So I want to talk about it, talk about what Jonathan Kuminga has done for the team, talk about what he hasn't done for the team, and talk about why we're in this situation. So if you like what I have to say, like the video. If you have your own opinions, comment it down below. Just like the vibes, consider subscribing. So yeah, we're here. This is the dead of summer for the NBA season, and this is when guys either have just gotten paid, um, got to new teams, been introduced as a member of a new team, perhaps, or the team announced that they're coming back on a brand new deal. They're here for a long time. That is not the case for the Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga. In fact, the Warriors have made almost zero moves this whole offseason. Um, One of the things that they've been trying to get done but haven't been able to get done um, is re-signing Jonathan Kuminga. And Jonathan Kuminga is a restricted free agent right now. The Warriors could have signed him last summer to a longer deal to keep him in a Golden State Warriors jersey. They decided not to do that. They decided to wait, try to gauge his value a little bit more. And he had a bad year last year. He didn't play. He played the least amount of games he's ever played in his career. He played, was this 47 games. In his absence, they got Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler essentially took all of his minutes. So he sat on the bench for a lot of the second half of the season. Got a little bit of postseason burn, not too much. And Jonathan Kuminga wants to play. He wants a bigger role. He wants his money. And to be quite honest, I'm not here to say another man deserves something or doesn't deserve something, but um, I will say this right at the top, and then we'll get into the other details about the whole situation. I don't know who Jonathan Kuminga thinks who he is. Like, I don't know who he thinks he is. Jonathan Kuminga hasn't done anything. And I think I think Jonathan, JK, we'll call him JK throughout the course of this video. Um, I think JK is an okay player. I think he's okay. I'm gonna get to a point in this video where I might be saying some stuff about him that is probably true. But as somebody who's a Steph Curry fan and by association a Warriors fan, I've gotten the pleasure to watch Jonathan Kuminga since he first come in the league. I watched him get drafted, and he's improved, sort of, kind of, maybe a little bit, but to his favor, in Jonathan Kuminga's favor, the Warriors aren't the best at developing talent. Um, you sort of have to get in where you fit in. They're not going to give you anything. You sort of have to prove it in the minutes you're given, and then when you start proving it more and more and more every game, every season, you get more time, you get more respect, you get more plays, so on and so forth. The the franchise revolves around Steph Curry. It revolves around arguably Draymond Green at this point, because he's the backbone of this team. And some players just aren't going to fit in that, and some players are just not going to fit in the Warriors system. Um, I've watched many players come through the Warriors training facility, come through the Warriors arena, Chase Center, and sometimes you'd be surprised who makes it work, and other times you'd be surprised who doesn't make it work. I can think of about 3 to 5 people that have either come to the Warriors via free agency or they've traded for them, and it hasn't worked out. One of the biggest ones is D'Angelo Russell, who some a lot of NBA fans are like, he's a bum. He's a ball hog. He just chucks shots. His IQ is low. He's not a championship player. He'd rather be on a bad team and play the style he wants to play than rather conform to a style of basketball that is conducive to winning, which I think is true. And the similarities between Jonathan Kuminga and D'Angelo Russell is that their ego is so freaking huge that they think they're better than, I don't want to say the team, but they should be the focal point of the team, and every play should be run for them, and they should have the ball in their hands X amount of times. They should have X amount of plays. And the other thing they have in common is that their shot IQ, terrible. Their IQ in general for the game of basketball, terrible. And when you have those two things, you cannot be in a Warriors jersey for more than a year, 2 years, because it just doesn't work. And you could say, well, it shouldn't be like that because Steve Kerr isn't the greatest coach. And I would agree with that. Steve Kerr is an above mediocre coach. He's a great manager of egos. I've always said that he manages egos really well. I think his biggest faults, and not just Steve Kerr's fault, as you can see in the bottom right corner, talking to Jonathan Kuminga there on your screen. His biggest faults were, and it's the Warriors' faults as well, was dealing with what would you call it? Accidents, scuffles. What was it? Dealing with like, I don't even know what the word is. When Draymond Green and Clay Thompson, Kevin Durant got into it, they didn't deal with that properly. When Draymond Green and Jordan Poole got into it, they didn't deal with that properly. Is that fully on Steve Kerr? No. Is it the Warriors and Steve Kerr? Yes. And I bring all this stuff up to say that I don't think Jonathan Kuminga was ever a Warrior. I just think he played for the Warriors, if that makes sense. You know, I think Jonathan is an insanely gifted player. Um, I think he's one of those guys who has never sat down and actually digested the game of basketball. He's just gone out there and played the way he's played his whole life. And to my point here, I had completely forgot about this when I was preparing for this video. Um, I remembered that. I was like, where did Jonathan Kuminga go to college? And then I remembered he was a part of that whole NBA G League Ignite bullshit experiment that every player that has come out of G League Ignite except Dyson Daniels has no basketball IQ and is a terrible shot diet. Case in point, Jonathan Kuminga, Jalen Green. There's a long list of these guys who forgot for they didn't go to college. They came out of high school. They played in the G League for NBA G League Ignite, now defunct. They got rid of it because it sucked. It didn't produce anything great. And they were just able to play whatever type of basketball they wanted. I think G League Ignite as a whole had a losing record every season they were in the G League, because everybody was just trying to get their own numbers. To my point, Jonathan Kuminga in the G League Ignite program, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and he got drafted. What is this? He was the 7th pick in the first round. So it worked. He got drafted high, and now he's sort of fighting for his rest of his NBA career. And I'm not saying he's not going to get another chance. I don't want that to come off like that at all. That he's not going to get another chance anywhere, because he is. He's young enough. He has enough potential. You can always bank on potential. Teams love potential. They love second round picks and they love potential. The second round picks is a joke, because NBA teams are just throwing second round picks to make a deal look slightly better in a trade. But moving forward here, I bring all this up and I say this about Jonathan Kuminga, and I say that he got what he wanted. He got drafted high, put up good enough numbers to get drafted high, and he played out his rookie deal, and he got a ring out of it. He got a ring in 2022, so he's an NBA champion. He has NBA championship experience. You know what I mean? Let's see. In that year, that was 2022, 2023. In that year, where he was a champion, played on a championship team, 9 points, 1.5 turnovers, no blocks, no steals, 3 rebounds, 37% from three on 2 attempts. What is this? 52% from field goal, and in 20 minutes. So he was sort of an integral piece to that championship Warriors team. Now he's looking to get off his rookie deal, and he's looking for a bigger role, and he's looking for a second contract. This is where we get to the present day. Um, he's not he's not getting him and his agent have decided he's not getting what he's worth. And he's come out, he's not tweeted, he's posted on Instagram a cryptic mess, not so cryptic, but he posted, I'll always bet on myself, or something to that effect, like I'm always gonna bet on myself. Um, and he reportedly, him and his agent turned down a 2-year, $45 million contract from the Warriors. Um, and when he turned it down, there was nothing for a couple, maybe like a week, a couple days, and then they were sort of trying to figure out maybe there could be a trade to be done to get rid of Jonathan, right? And there were some rumblings about Phoenix, um, about, well, of course, the Lakers. I always want to talk about the Lakers. Um, about Phoenix, about what's the other one? There was another one, but the main one that stuck the was Sacramento, and I think the deal was something Malik Monk and somebody else for Jonathan Kuminga. If I could find the deal here, or the proposed deal here. Um, Let me see. 1 minute, 1 minute. Yeah, It was Jonathan Kuminga to the Kings, and the Warriors would get um, Malik Monk, Six Man of the Year candidate Malik Monk, and some other pieces, right? Just to make the money match, or just to make room on the Kings roster, because the Kings roster doesn't have a lot of flexibility. So they could re-sign Jonathan to a lucrative deal, the deal that he wants, and the Warriors would get something for Jonathan without losing the asset and gaining an asset back. You know what I mean? Um, and then reportedly that deal fell through. It didn't happen. The Warriors said no. They want something else for Jonathan Kuminga. But as a Warriors fan, at this point, I would take Malik Monk. I'm not the biggest Malik Monk fan. I think he has his moments. He has about 30 to 40 games a season where he looks really, really good, and then like the other 40 games he looks okay. In the playoffs, he has like maybe like 5 games where he's just okay. Do I like a Steph Curry and Malik Monk backcourt? No, but at this point, I'd rather have something than have Jonathan Kuminga sit at home and pout about it, and have an open roster spot, or have a roster spot taken up by somebody who doesn't want to be there. So that deal fell through. There were talks, and they were very minimal, and then they just didn't want to do the deal. The Warriors just like, nah, I actually don't want to do this. Instead, this was reported most recently, was um, he's considering signing a the qualifying offer, which would only be for one year, $7.9 million, and he would bet on himself. He'd bet on himself to play very well next year, and he would be a free agent next year, a complete free agent. Um, this is where it gets awkward, and when I say awkward, I need to elaborate a bit more here. Um, it becomes awkward because either he doesn't want to take the 2-year deal, so he's going to be on a 1-year deal. The 1-year deal, he's going to be unhappy. Everybody in that locker room knows he's going to be unhappy. Steve Kerr knows Jonathan Kuminga does not like him. Um, the front office is not inclined to give him any sort of deal or any sort of favoritism, because the current front office, run by Mike Dunleavy Jr., was not the front office that drafted him. It was not. Bob Myers drafted him. He's a Bob Myers guy. Bob Myers drafted Jonathan Kuminga back in when was this? 2021. So nobody in that locker room, or I should say in that locker room. There are probably people who like him in the locker room. Nobody in that um, Warriors front office, or anybody with a higher billing than a player, or higher up in the franchise sort of wants Jonathan Kuminga because I've neglected to say that you know Steve Kerr has never done Jonathan Kuminga any favors. I think Steve Kerr has given it an attempt to try to give Jonathan a bigger role, to give him something else to do, to prove himself in other ways because again, Jonathan's shot diet and his shot IQ and his IQ in general for the game of basketball isn't great. And there have been times where you've got the impression that he wants I don't want to say even I'll use the word more touches than Steph Curry. Like he wants to be an equal focal point as Steph Curry, when that simply is not the case. Um, and this past playoffs, I mean, just as an indicator, like I mentioned this year, this is the least amount of games he's played, 47 games. Jimmy Butler came in halfway through the year, took all of his minutes, and then when he came back, Jonathan was essentially sitting on the bench. But we look at these playoff numbers, right? 2024, 2025. In 23 minutes, right? And he played 8 games, right? So 8 game sample size. 15 points, 1.5 turnovers, no blocks, no steals, 2 rebounds, 40% from three, and 58% from field, or 48% from field goal. You think, oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, right? Um, these turnovers always stick out to me. He's a 1.5 turnover guy for his whole career, and a 2.5 personal foul guy, 2.2 personal foul guy. Um, he just doesn't get it, and it's so painfully obvious to everybody around, to everybody that interacts with Jonathan, and anybody that watched Jonathan, that he just doesn't get it. But Jonathan doesn't seem to get it that he doesn't get it, and that's the problem. Um, and again, the Warriors aren't good at developing young talent. But you have to look at his counterpart. Same draft class, same draft class. He was the 14th pick. Moses Moody, same draft class, man. Same draft class. Moses Moody is on a 3-year, $37 million deal. So there's a difference between a guy who sort of knows his role and has played his butt off and has conformed to the Warrior system. He probably could be a bit more involved, but Moses Moody has made it his he's carved out a role for himself versus Jonathan, who keeps slamming his head against the wall trying to make a carve a role for himself when he simply can't do that. And it's gonna get messy because again, nobody there is really rooting for him. And the Warriors don't want to lose him as an asset for nothing. They're not going to do him any favors by, oh, Jonathan, you came back on a 1-year deal. Let's play you more. Let's do some more plays for you. Let's make sure you get your points, rebounds, 3-point percentage up this season, and we'll make sure you get to a good team. They're not going to do him those favors. In fact, they'll probably do him a disservice and not play him at all. And say, yeah, you want to bet on yourself? This is what you get for betting on yourself. And is that a bad thing to do? Yes, but that's just business, and we've seen it happen over and over and over again. Where, oh, you came back on a 1-year deal and you're going to be unrestricted. Nah, just go sit on the bench. We're gonna tank your value. We're gonna tank your value. So you're gonna get so much less money than you would have gotten if you just would have taken the 2-year deal we gave you at the beginning of the summer. That's just business. Do I think it's wrong? Yes, but that's just what happens. That's what happens in the NBA. I can't I I can't justify it, but that's what happens. Um, let's see here. What else we got for Jonathan? Um, I feel like I'm a broken record talking about his shot IQ and all this stuff, but it's true. You ask any Warriors fan who's watched him, and to his credit, he has improved. He has improved a little bit at each incremental thing, but it's not enough of an improvement to justify the money that he wants and the money he wants to be paid. You know. Um, Two other things of note that I want to touch on is um, Jonathan Kuminga is holding up every other Warriors um, move they possibly could make. They want to bring back Gary Payton II. They can't. Gary Payton II has said just waiting on JK. Gary Payton II's waiting for something to go down so they can have room to either sign Gary Payton II or not sign him, and he's gonna have to move on. I'd rather have Gary Payton II than Jonathan Kuminga. Um, and the crazy thing is, um, like I mentioned earlier with the Sacramento Kings thing, is Jonathan Kuminga wants to be in Sacramento. He wants to go, per Mark Spears. Um, and Mark Spears said, the Kings are offering him a starting spot. He's talked on Zoom calls with Scott Perry. Scott Perry's a shitty GM. BJ Armstrong, also Doug Christie. He's in. He wants to go there. That's lovely. But get a load of this right. Get a load of this. This is what makes me laugh. This is what makes me giggle. The Kings are also interested in Russell Westbrook, who's still a free agent, and we'll see if Russell Westbrook gets signed. This might be his exit from the NBA. Um, that's another video though. Projected starting lineup if Jonathan Kuminga is traded to the Sacramento Kings: Dennis Schroeder, Zach LaVine, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis, Keon Ellis, Russell Westbrook. There's no there's no DeMar DeRozan here. And this team reeks of just ugh. I don't know why Jonathan Kuminga would want to go here. Um, but when I saw this projected lineup, I was like, ugh, this is disgusting. Um, I just saw this tweet. Jonathan Kuminga threatens to play basketball for the Warriors. Threatens. He's threatening them. Like, I'm gonna play. That's a joke. It's a joke. But yeah, that's the whole Jonathan Kuminga thing. I've held off on talking about it because it just keeps getting worse and worse. This is not going to be pretty. If he doesn't sign the deal, well, he has to sign something. They have to do something with him by a certain date, I believe, by training camp. Um, there was a thought I saw that, hey, maybe uh, Jonathan Kuminga should just do what Jimmy Butler did to the Heat to get to the Warriors, and just throw a fit and do all this crazy stuff, sabotage his whole thing. And I immediately thought Jonathan Kuminga is not an eighth of what Jimmy Butler is, and the difference between the Heat and Jimmy Butler thing and the Jonathan Kuminga and Warriors thing is that the Heat really needed Jimmy Butler. They really need him. The Warriors do not need Jonathan Kuminga. He's just taking up a roster spot at this point. You know, if this is going to be an ongoing struggle between the front office and him and his agent, and you know, it's going to be a long off season for Jonathan Kuminga. I'm not. Is he playing in? Because they're doing a lot of FIBA stuff right now. A lot of NBA players are playing in the FIBA ball. Is he playing? He might be playing. I don't know. I'd have to look into that, but um, I don't I don't I don't see this ending any way positive. I think in my heart of hearts, I know he's gonna sign that 1 year deal. He's gonna bet on himself. The Warriors aren't gonna do him any favors, and it's just gonna be another wasted year of Steph Curry, and that's highly disappointing. Um, you could have traded him at the trade deadline last year. You could have traded him last off season, last summer. The Warriors didn't, and they knew this was coming. I just don't think they thought Jonathan Kuminga would be this strong-headed and this foolish and this silly. You know, I think Jonathan Kuminga thought, oh well, somebody's going to offer me money, and the Warriors aren't going to imagine I'm going to be off this team anyway. But that's the thing about this new NBA is that Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey, um, guys who are still on the open market right now. Russell Westbrook, a bit older, but um, teams don't really want to pay you what you think you're worth because you're not worth that to them. You're not. You're not. If you're just an okay player and you want like mega millions, you're not getting that. You know, and I think it's so funny because Role players make a lot of money now. They make a lot of money. They make more money than they probably should. And the funny thing is, if Jonathan Kuminga was just a role player and he played his role and he did everything the Warriors asked him to do, he'd probably have a deal right now. He probably would make some big money. But I can't be mad at him for betting on himself. It's the duality of like, well, he could be a role player and just be fine in his role and get paid millions, but he kind of wants to push his luck and try to be the guy and be a first option on a team. And it's like, I don't believe Jonathan Kuminga will ever be that. I think he's a great role player guy. I think he's a great um, how would I even say this? Just spotty minutes guy. I don't see it. There were moments in past years where he's been really good on defense, but then like Jonathan Kuminga has this thing where he just gets so disengaged. Like and I get that you want to have the ball, you want to shoot the ball, you want to do things you do, and be able to make mistakes and not get subbed out. But when you're in the Warriors culture and you're in the Warriors system, the Warriors has been win 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 now for many years. Um, you can't be making those mistakes, and you can't be that, for lack of a better term, stupid to think that they're just going to switch it overnight. Oh, it's the Jonathan Kuminga show. They're not doing that. And they're not paying Jonathan the money that he wants. And I hope this thing gets sorted out, but this might drag on for another couple weeks, month into September, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's the Jonathan Kuminga stuff. I'll keep you guys updated. This video is pre-recorded. This is going up on Wednesday, so if anything's changed, that's big. You'll never see this video. But if nothing has changed, you just watch the whole video. Thank you. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.